Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Hey,
How are
there you
you?
are. There's apples and cider and cinnamon just floating around on the screen.
Exactly.
It's glorious.
Um,
Oh, that can make us bigger. I never even knew I could do that. Have we been able to do that this whole time? I've been looking at us in this window. I don't think I get to see the chat stuff though. Oh, I'm bigger, bigger now. I like your holiday backdrop. I tried to make one. It didn't work out. It tried.
I've been experimenting since I've been doing so many live events. I've been experimenting with different things, and so I bought a green screen.
Okay.
Hence the Christmas lights.
I like
Um,
it.
and then I got a ring light, which really only works with my phone. Like it really messes up the background. But anyways, um,
Yeah, they're a finicky thing.
hmm. So, welcome. I will let you talk. I'm not gonna. I won't explain it. I'll let you do it. Talk a little bit about your all your books, and I'll hold them up as you talk about them.
I like that I only grabbed three out of the five that I have because I was like, well, we're not going to really talk about the poetry. When are we? But and then that was the first one you held up, and I was like,
Exactly. It's right on
God,
point.
Perseus, where will
Poetry.
begin? Well, we can just jump through that one pretty quickly. Since I mean it's self-explanatory. I literally I like how the green screen is just mucking with the entire cover and your hands and either
I
way,
know.
I think you get the idea. The book is called Brain Dump. It's self-explanatory. It's poetry. It's songs. It's little short things that I wrote. It goes, I would say, at least 10 to 15 years of my life worth of. I found journals and notebooks and all that good stuff, full of just stuff that I wrote, whether it was a song for a failed band or if it was a poem that I wrote when I was angry, or if I was in the army and I was bouncing around in the back of a vehicle, I would pull out my notepad from my pocket and jot something down. So there's a couple of weird ones in there. Have you gotten the chance to thumb through it?
Yes, I have seen some interesting, interesting bits. All of your stuff is interesting, though.
So, I mean, some of the ones that I liked, and it's weird because I'll have people read them and they go, wow, that's deep. And I'm like, it's really not. Anybody that knows me knows that it was me just being stupid. Like my favorite one in there, it's towards the back. It's called Bird. And it's literally talking about like what it would be like to be a bird and having no worries and no problems and just being able to fly away. And that it's kind of like in that line, and people look at it and they go, "Wow, imagine if you were something else." And it's like they take this like really profound thing from it, which is great. By all means, take whatever inspiration and profoundness you want from it. I wrote it because I saw a bird outside.
Fair enough.
I was at work and I was like, hey, a little red bird outside. All right. And then I just kind of wrote it down on my phone notepad because that's the modern way to do things, I guess. And cleaned it up and threw it in the book. When I started putting it together, I said, "Oh, I got this bird one." And I read it again, and I was like, "This is stupid.
Let's include
It
it.
it's going in the book." But yeah, a lot of it. I mean, you can tell some of the ones that were structured as songs. I even kind of tell you that they're poems, songs, or just meaningless ramblings, which all of them are that. But um, I kind of explained like this is a song, this is this, but I also broke it down into like different phases. This section of stuff is about love. This section is about the exact opposite. And this section is about I have no idea, but I don't do drugs, but I'm pretty sure drugs were done during that bit of the chapter. Like,
Someone
did I hang
somewhere.
out with the did I hang out with the Beatles? What happened? Did we do some LSD and I wrote a really lovely poem?
Um, but that wasn't that. Well, you kind of consider that your first one, right?
Well, that's in terms of books, that the the poetry when I say time wise, yeah, I probably started writing that first because I started writing that all the way back into like seventh or sixth grade. Some of them date back to like middle school, which is pretty cool that I was able to track down some stuff that I wrote from way back when. In the middle of like my English homework or like math homework, I'm like writing little poems or stories, doodling. I have a comic book strip that I would love to just clean up and publish. Follows a little dragon creature and he goes on misadventures. And I was like, this isn't half bad. Like thumbing through it 20 years later, I was like, okay. So it's not really my first. My first one was the big bright yellow one that you have next to you. That was my first book. Boy, that does not do well with the green screen.
I can stop
I always
it.
turn it at an angle if it works. Does it disappear or show clear if you there? Hey, look at that. There it is.
I'm just a floating head in the dark.
Oh, now the Christmas spirit's gone. So this book was actually my first ever book. This is when I sat down and I'm sure I told you the story. My buddy David, I would always exchange crazy, just I call it train wreck stories with him. He would just say, "Oh, well, I had a relationship and this woman did this to me." And then I'd say, "Well, let me tell you a story about my ex." And he would just, by the end of the day, he's just sitting at the edge of his chair going, "That's fascinating. I need more." And then he kind of got to the point where he's like, "You should put these in a book. I would read this book." Unfortunately, he took his life before I got to do the book, but that was sort of a mild encouragement. Like, David was right. I should make this a book. So I sat down, I think, through December into January over like my winter break between semesters. And I just hammered out this story where I went back. At this point, I'm even thinking, I'm like, wow, am I that old? 20 years ago, I went back like 20 some odd years to when me and my ex first started dating. And it starts high school sweetheart, high school stuff, that puppy love, as they call it, whatever. Yeah, you can put your Christmas trees back if you want. You just got this plain blue.
I know, but it's okay. I gotta hold up your other covers too. So
that's true, but that was the only one that was just like, ooh. Going forward, I can hold them up too.
Fair enough.
So
there you go.
With all of that, we were that's much better. Looks more festive. Like you're inside of like the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation wad of lights.
Yes. That's the goal.
So that one I actually it was hard to write because I had to remember, like, not just like I remember the events. Anybody that's ever been bullied or abused or any of that stuff never forgets the event. You never forget the detail. You never forget where you were, the position of the sun, how many cars were in the parking lot. I don't know. You just remember like almost like a photographic image of that traumatic experience.
Yes.
So in this case, it wasn't so much remembering like, oh, well, there was this one time, boom, boom, boom. It was not looking at it as 20 years later me, where I'm just like, how dare you? I know where this is going. The hardest part for me was to get back into the mentality of who I was at 15, 16, 17, and so on. Where was I as a person? Where was I emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all that stuff? That was the hardest part. But what I managed to do was kind of take you on a journey that I've had people tell me it reads like a Lifetime special, mixed with a little bit of ID channel, just kind of like Salt Bae into there. It gets crazy. So I do my best to give you any kind of trigger warnings that could be something that would be of significance, because obviously it does deal with abuse and all of that. But I also tell it in a very sarcastic and fun way.
Yeah.
I try to liven up the mood. Like it's me. Like I'm not going to tell you like as straight face as I can. Like, and then it got really dark. No, yeah. I'm going to be fun with it. It's as best as you can be to tell a story like this.
Yeah. You approach everything with humor. So
Yeah, that's the only way you really can get through a lot of trauma. I mean, look at some of the greatest comedians. They take some of their worst experiences, their worst arguments, their worst fights, conflicts, and they turn them into a bit for their act.
Exactly.
It's how it works. Some of the best movies, like we actually just watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because you have to. It was Thanksgiving. Um, Watching that movie and you read like some of the John Hughes like trivia behind the scenes where they kind of talk about it. John Hughes literally experienced 2/3 of that. Bless you.
Thank you.
We couldn't hear it, but we could see it.
I muted it. Sorry.
But like John Hughes experienced almost all of these things that he could write about. Like, and that to me makes great comedy because that connects you to it. You can identify with it. Now, I might be being silly in some of the parts of my book where it's just like, oh my God, but you've been there in some way, shape, or form. You've either personally done it or you know a guy. So it was an adventure, and that was kind of like my first foray into writing. And I kind of just sat down and went, you know, I don't want to write nonfiction. This isn't what I want to be known for. I think I want to write like horror stuff that I'm into, like horror, sci-fi, stuff like that. So I published the Big Yellow Tales from an Ex-Husband. I put that out in January of 2 years ago, I think 2, 3. I don't know. It starts to become one big blur at this point. And then I was like, I need to write something like for me. Like this is the like I want to write something that gets fun. So spooky tales and scary things, which I have also right here, which isn't going to be blurry. I have I've since updated the cover. If you could see that
Oh,
some of the font and some of the stuff you didn't miss out on anything. There's just a little bit better description on the back, and the font's a little different, but same terrible stories. Couldn't fix those. Um, I told you about the review that I got that I actually reported to Goodreads because some lady was like, "These
yeah.
books are terrible. Kill yourself." And I was like, you know, you could just have left it off at these books are terrible. These books are bad, and you should feel bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's not the
Leave
not,
me
not a
with
very good.
the Zoidberg.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like, but I've gotten a lot of like really fun reviews where somebody actually compared it to Stephen King's short stories. One of the other people that reviewed it, they said that they really appreciated the structure that I gave to it. So here's what's really cool about what I'm going to continue to do with the Spooky Tales series, because I have number 2 coming too. That'll be next fall probably. Um, so with Spooky Tales, what I did was I tell you a story that happened to me. So the first one is the first book is all like demon centric. Just ended up that way, I guess. Um, so I tell you the stories of the General, Demon Dog, and Bethel the Grinning Man. Um, what I do with the 3 of those is they were more or less something that happened to me in some way, shape, or form, whether there's a real boogeyman or not. That's neither here nor there, but it was something that I mildly experienced to inspire the situation. So, like with the General, um, everything that I tell with the main character almost parallels what happened up until the moment when the General materializes and shows himself. Then we hit a hard turn to the right. And that's where it goes into the full blown fiction. But everything else is pretty much, the him being on late night radio DJ. I did that. I did have somebody like message in and just say, "Hey, being haunted by a demon." And we all just kind of chuckled and giggled, and we were like, "Look at this nutball haunted by a demon. Demons aren't real." But it ended up freaking me out, and any noise that happened in my mom's basement at the time scared the bejesus out of me. Like the demon was coming for me. I was like, "Oh no, he coming!" But I kind of got to tell that story, the fictional version, where you follow Freddy on his misadventures and the general going for his soul. And then I tell you what really happened, which was me being in my basement and some dude says, Demon's going to get you. And there's a little bit more than that. But then just being freaked out. Like, this is what inspired it. And it's such an old story. I'm going to go down a weird path because I used to have a mild rap career. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Laughter, everyone. I also just saw that Brad said hi. Hi, Brad.
Yes.
Um, so I did. We were okay. But I wrote a song called The General based on this whole ordeal. And it literally describes play for play what I wrote about in the book. So if anybody's like, this sounds like a story I've heard, I'm going to go, 2004, bud. I did it first.
And here's
But
my rap to prove it.
yeah. But with those stories, I kind of got to tell even the second story, Demon Dog, as a kid. I got scared to death by what I'm going to say is my favoriteest movie of all time, which I have 400 shot glasses down here to prove it. The old Ghostbusters. My favorite movie of all time is also the one that scared me to death as a child. And it wasn't the ghosts. It wasn't Slimer. It was when Lewis and Dana turned into those dogs. That stuck with me in nightmares. Scary, right? So I got haunted, and the way that I describe it with Robin, my character from Spooky Tales, are the dreams that I had. Obviously, nothing happened to me in real life, but the dreams that I had were so lifelike, they would just terrify me to death. So I got to kind of like jazz it up a bit. Like, this isn't a dream for this little girl. This is like right here and now, bud. And kind of went with that. But that was like my first adventure into horror stuff. And then I kind of got this idea like, yeah, this is fun, but what if I wrote like other stuff? I'm just trying to still find, I think, my home, but I love sci-fi B movies, and I also wanted to tell like a military story. So I'm sure you have my very next book up there, yeah. So without your wonderful light circle glare, if I can hold it straight, that would be Fubar Blackout. One
You
of
also have a different cover. You've redesigned your cover.
I do that. I like to keep you on your toes. Yeah, the cover I added. So the difference is it's camo, which you can't really see. I'm trying to get it without a glare. So instead of it being white, it's camo, and then blackout is in black, and that's really it. The cover more or less stayed the same. I didn't do nothing else with it. But that story, I kind of just like wanted to fictionalize my time when I was deployed. So I ended up kind of sitting around, like kicking around some ideas after a 3 a.m. You ever have those moments when you have to jot something down or you'll forget it? Doesn't matter what it is. It could be just like, make sure you walk the dog tomorrow, or, go out, make sure you get like ranch dressing tomorrow. You're out of butter. Remember this, and you got to jot it down on the phone. I woke up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning and just hammered out this really cool, like, what ended up becoming the preface. This is literally, if I can thumb through my own book here. I woke up, pulled out my phone, and I just went, and started hammering out with my thumbs as quick as my brain could go. So this is actually from the preface. So anybody that has the river that we don't speak of can view the book preview, and they get a little taste of this. But it says, as I mounted the M249 machine gun against my shoulder, I felt the weight of the entire weapon. I had never really had the opportunity to fire one of these bad boys before, but by God, there was a first for everything. I flipped the safety selector switch, removing the weapon from safe. I closed my eyes for a brief moment. knowing time was of the essence. I reopened them and steadied my breathing as I squeezed softly on the trigger. I fired small round bursts into the crowd of these things. I barely knew how to work one of these because my military career thus far has been magazine-fed weapons. I prayed to whoever was listening for the belt to remain free from with no snag. I continued 3 to 5 round bursts my way to the base exchange. The good news is these things were going down with regular ammo. The bad news, I don't know if I have enough ammo for all of them. I literally wrote that at like 3 a.m. and I just was like, good, save. Sci-fi story thing. And that's what I titled it, sci-fi story thing. And went to sleep. so,
Well, there you go.
So, I kind
And
of
then
just.
this year,
Hmm?
go ahead. I was going to say, and then this year you moved on to you've got your. I don't have that one with me. I have it somewhere here. I just haven't put it on the shelf yet.
This guy?
Yeah.
As it looms with his eyeballs just kind of peeking over my name there. Like, I sees you. But, like, I went to, like, get that sci-fi B-movie, like, action and a little bit of, like, drama and gore. There's some deaths in Fubar. But then I was just like, well, I kind of got to do what I wanted to do with sci-fi, with military sci-fi in particular. I wanted to have it fun. It's a bunch of guys that are just like your admin people that are getting coffee for the captain and answering the phones and stuff like that. Thrust into this like hardcore situation. How would they respond? So I got to write like some of the realistic elements of the military coupled with this sci-fi piece. So that brings us to the next book when I said, how come every horror book that I read, like this serial killer stuff, holds back so much? Like if you're watching a serial killer story or like on TV or something, you don't want to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre go around the corner, have Leatherface disappear around the shed and you hear the chainsaw and a faint scream in the distance. If you're into that kind of thing, you're into that kind of thing. Like, show me the money. I want to see Saw. I want to see Carrie Elwes just hacksawing away at that foot, which is still, I think, my top 10 moments of Hollywood. Um,
Yes.
and spoiler alert, it's like a 15, 16-year-old movie. He didn't make it because I like when they showed him in the second movie in the hallway, like he bled out and died. Like that was his body in the hallway crawling out. And I'm just like, yes, yes, continuity is key. But with the serial killer story, I frightened my mom to death with this story. She actually called me at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Like, I have questions. Some of them are about the book and some are about you. But I mean, I also had a retired cop buddy of mine. He actually said, I'm worried. A, police wise, everything from the timeline that it starts, because it starts off in the 70s. Forensics wasn't what it is. Fingerprinting and DNA wasn't where it is today. We didn't have cameras on every corner with Big Brother watching. So I really just wanted to take it down this path of just like, this guy just gets lucky every time he kills someone, whether it's circumstantial, incidental, or he just flat out walks away from the crime scene and everybody just goes, whoop-de-doo, we don't have DNA or whatever. He just kind of gets away with it. But I also, medically, there are some kills in there that are just like, woo. And I was also reaffirmed that as a former paramedic, first responder, yes, this is medically possible. And it's horrifying that I detailed some of these things. But it's a no holds barred book. It's if you like serial killer stuff like Mindhunter, you like what's the other one? American Psycho.
American Psycho, of course.
There's a lot of nods to. I have sirens going on outside, like the entire neighborhood is probably on fire. I'm just like, what is going on out there? But it's definitely a love letter to all things serial killer. while being its own story. So there was one God, I can't remember the name of the movie, but there was a movie where it had some kid that wanted to be one of the serial killers. Like he idolized these
Hmm.
guys and tried to like copycat them.
Yeah.
And it was like it kind of like followed it like a biography type of thing, like a
Hmm.
biopic in a way. It was weird. Um, I didn't want to do that. This guy is his own guy, but in my writing, if you have seen these stories, you're gonna go, ah, yeah, there it is. Like there's a little bit of everything serial killer, whether it's like the the big real non-fictional guys, Gacy, Bundy, and Manson, and those guys, or if it's like a Dexter or Bateman, any of these guys that are fictional but just as real to life. So I've been pushing the crap out of this book to anybody that's just like, "What's your most messed up story?" I'm just like, "Here,
I
here."
don't know. You've got so many spooky stories. So my question, we've been asking the authors today more about the holidays. We've been focused on that. So my question for you, do you have anything Christmas themed in any of these? Or have you thought about including any kind of holiday theme in your horror? I feel like that's kind of a newer genre right now is the Christmas horror, like
Yeah,
Krampus and things like that.
Santa sleigh with Goldberg from WCW or WWF, whichever branch he was in at the time. Um, yeah, there's a lot of like I like the. Have you seen Anna and the Apocalypse?
No, I feel like I might have heard of it,
We're
but
we're logging off of this now. You're going to jump on I don't know Amazon, Netflix, whatever it's on, and you need to stream it right now. It is
okay.
a zombie themed Christmas musical.
Okay, all right. That definitely
Is that
sounds
not
fun.
like the greatest like combination of awesome ever? So it's very much like imagine Zombieland the musical.
Okay, that sounds
Um,
great.
but but it's also Christmas, so it's got like I'm assuming like Hallmark touches is what I'm going to call it. But yeah, that stuff is like it's super popular. So I've actually it's funny that that question comes up because I actually have a story that I'm kind of like mulling around. So the only way that I can actually describe it is you remember the Jonathan Taylor Thomas movie because everybody does. I'll be home for Christmas.
I don't. I know Jonathan Taylor
Ah!
Thomas. I just don't know I'll Be Home for Christmas.
This is you just see my screen log off like that's it.
Oh no, I'm
That's it.
done.
That's it. We're done. We're done here. So basically, the premise of JTT's story is he's kind of just a turd. he's he's unreliable. He lies. He's manipulative to his like girlfriend and family, and he's away from home. And his dad kind of gives him this ultimatum: if you can get home by Christmas Eve, this brand new like convertible Porsche looking fancy sports car is yours.
Hmm.
So he is literally just like blazing home, but then lies to his girlfriend and says that he's coming home for her.
Hmm.
And it's like, I call it that typical like teeny bopper drama where I'm juggling all these problems and he gets into like one thing after another, hitchhiking across the United States, dressed as Santa Claus because I think he super glued a Santa costume to his body.
Now I really need to see this.
It's not a great movie, but it's definitely a classic. So that's the only explanation that I can give for this premise. So it's about a guy who's trying to get home to his family for the holidays. And it just breaks his heart. He remembers that he hasn't been home in years. He needs to see his kids. He needs to see his family. The problem is he's been dead for 4 or 5 years.
Oh.
So it's kind of the same premise. Like it's going to be a zombie movie of the guy trying to get home. Um, and I, like I said, I'm mulling a lot of the details. I got it hammered down a little bit, but I think he's going to unwittingly start the zombie apocalypse by accident. But
All
it's
right,
going to
all
be in
right.
like this Hallmark Channel esque manner. That's how I'm kind of doing it because I feel left out. Like my season is like My season was like a month or two ago.
That's what I'm saying. You got to do
That's my hot
all these
time.
cross genres now. So Laura wants to know, what are your holiday traditions? Because that's what I've been asking other authors today. Is what do you do? Do you have any specific holiday traditions?
So my tradition is to not decorate until at least Thanksgiving when Santa crosses that Macy's finish line. I don't know if that's a tradition or a rule. But my tradition is to be Clark Griswold. Um, I actually made my neighbor go out and buy more decorations because the neighbor across the street has like icicle lights that are doing a dance, and he's got a bunch of like snowflakes that stick up in the yard, and the tree is decorated, and he's got kind of taking a gander at him out the door, but he's still adding stuff to it. So he's got that. My neighbor to the other side of me has a giant inflatable Santa popping out of a chimney. And again, fancy lights that are dancing, little snowflakes hanging from the house. And then there's me as Clark Griswold. I have 5 inflatables in my yard, a candy cane pathway light, a whole light show. I am 1 year away from getting the kind that can play music, and it's just nothing but Wizards in Winter on repeat out there.
There you go.
So I actually encouraged my neighbor, unintentionally, to go to like Lowe's or something and buy like 3 inflatables. And he actually told me yesterday, he's like, "This is your fault." So it's not like I'm taking credit. He specifically pointed the finger at me. But like tradition wise, I mean, I don't have kids and I don't really have family come over for the holidays. I used to go over my grandparents' house. We don't do that this year.
Good.
But normally, like, I try to do what I used to do as a kid, which was you get one present on Christmas Eve. That's like a common thing. I found out like that's kind of the thing.
It's funny because I don't think anybody else has said that yet, other than me. I said that earlier. That's something that we did. You got one. Now, let me ask you this. Were you raised in a religious household?
No.
So we had to go to church. We got like the gift. On Christmas Eve, we got the gift almost as if to make it through, because we made it through a church service. So for us, it was just that incentive to make it through the church service.
And the Christmas services are always like extra long. Like, I don't know if it's because I actually have sat through like at least 1 or 2 holiday related church services. And for whatever reason, like I've sat through like 2 other ones. I went to a youth church with a buddy of mine. I stayed the night. We played Super Nintendo, and then the trade-off was gotta go to church with him because Mama's gonna make us both go. Sat through that. That was like an hour and a half. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm out. Cool. That was all right. I survived. I didn't set fire, which was great.
Yes.
But I went to one of the Christmas ones. My ex. If you read the big yellow book, you'll find out how wonderful she is. She drugged me to one particular service, and she was, I don't even know what denomination, but we were just in there for at least 6 days, and no food, no water, you were just in your chair. We stood up, we sat down. I think it was a Catholic church because we were doing a lot of like Pilates in there. Stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, do a Zumba number. There was a flash mob that happened at one point. But I don't know why they're just so long-winded. But I don't know if it's also because when you're younger, you're just like, dude, I got a Sega Genesis waiting on me.
Yes.
Can we? Like, you just want to pull out like the wrap it up music from the Oscars and all of that. Like, all right, Father, I'm gonna need you to come on.
And, in the background.
And yay, it is Christmas, and I'm going to go back to my Sega Genesis. Amen. And break.
Yes.
Like, I think it's that. I think it's a coupling of the fact that it is extremely long, mixed with that anticipation that you got to get to your toys, your presents, get in bed so Santa can come do his thing, so you can wake up and just destroy the living room with wrapping paper.
So, and my other question that I've been asking people is, what are you responsible for contributing to the family meal?
All of it. Um,
Well, like, do you
because
have a special dish that you know, like you're known for, something that you enjoy making, or maybe a dish that somebody else makes that you can't go through a holiday without having?
hmm. So I guess that I have an answer for both halves of that. So if I do go over a friend's house, I don't usually bring food over to a family. It's already a small table, and there's about 50 of us crowded around a table, and you're not going to notice whatever I bring. So um, I usually bring over like I make a really good like brownie mix.
Mm.
And I know it sounds stupid because it's just a brownie, but
No.
like we have had that and a cinnamon crumb cake that I make.
Mm.
Those are my two specialties, and
All right.
they will change your life. They are that good.
All right.
Um, I brought them over last year to a friend of mine, John and Elena's house. We had a little friends Christmassy holiday type of deal in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we just kind of popped over for a little brunch. I think it was like a kind of a hybrid birthday holiday mix of everything happening. So I brought it over there, and I always come home with an empty container.
All right.
So that's usually what I bring, but it's weird. So I don't know how it's made or what sorcery goes into making it, but my grandmother makes these like whipped pastries,
Okay.
and they're literally just fluff. It's like somebody freeze dried Cool Whip.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe it, but they are like they're in there with the cookies. Like
Yes.
we'll have like sugar cookies with sprinkles and crap. The traditional stuff, chocolate chip cookie, the imposter oatmeal raisin cookie that's right next to the chocolate chip cookie, which is
Tricky.
you're terrible. You're a bad person if you do that. They need to be in separate plates, clearly labeled.
Different sides of the room, in my opinion.
How about not even in that room? Just
Yeah,
take your
exactly. Or not at all.
oatmeal cookies and leave. You're
Yes.
not welcome in this household. Be
Take them
gone.
with you.
We don't
Be
need that
gone.
negativity in this house. Um, but like it'll be in there with like that assortment, and that's kind of like that's the thing that I'm like, ooh. So I still may pop over my grandparents' house and just be like, hey,
Leave a
grandma,
10
whip
out.
up some of them things. I don't know what they're called, but you know the thing, the pink
I
and green things.
I think I know what you are talking about. Like, I think I've seen them before. I just don't know what
Yeah,
they're. I don't know what they're made out of. I want to say they've got like a starch in them, like a starch
yeah.
based thing, but they're
It's
sweet. But they're not very sweet. It's not like it's powdered sugar kind of thing.
no, and it's just like it's almost like a tasteless marshmallow mixed with like Cool Whip.
Yes,
Like I don't
I
know how
know
to
what you mean.
describe it. Like it's one of those things that I can't find in the store. I can't just go to Giant or Walmart and just pick up a box of them and be like, "Yay, my favorite things!" Like I can eat. I usually get so my two personal food traditions that are store bought are I will buy a meat pack from like Hickory Farms or something, like one of the little booths that they have at the mall. I will buy a meat and cheese pack and just go to town. That's a tradition for me. I will be
I make that. Yes, they're sorry. I just had to Google it because it was driving me crazy. They're meringue cookies.
yes. That
They're
sounds right.
they're yeah. I was like, I know I can picture this, and I feel like I want to share. I don't know if you can see this, probably not, but
It looks great.
um,
They're bright white and washed
yeah.
out because it's
So they're meringue cookies. So I'm pretty sure that's what you're talking about because yeah,
probably. Let me
um,
see. I'll consult with the internets as well here,
yeah. Since this
and
will,
I'll agree with you. And
oh,
anybody watching can just take our word for it.
I can share my screen too.
No, that's pretty much it. The meringue cookies.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. That's definitely those because
That
they're
is
like
funny.
it's like an air puff.
I don't know anybody that's ever made them. Like I've never, but you, and then it's funny because you mentioned the color, and I just always picture them as white, but I have seen them in different colors.
They're like green or
Oh,
pink when she
here I'm
makes
gonna.
them. I mean, I don't know what she puts in there. Um, but yeah, there's a recipe for it. May just throw down with that. Um, but yeah, that's kind of like food wise, those are definitely my traditions. I kind of just look forward to that. I don't look forward to like, oh, I can't wait till I taste this ham or this special mashed potatoes. Um,
There we
you know,
go. I
I
should.
Hey, look at that. I'm going to eat every
Meringue.
single one of those, starting from the top left, and I'll just work my way down.
Now I don't think I've ever had one, so now I'm like really
What?
now I'm
Now
really
we're just
curious.
going to have to, like, we're going to have to Google, like, where
Well,
they're sold.
well, that I've decided that we are gonna like maybe in the spring or next year. What we'll do for Cider Monday is we'll actually have an event where all of the authors have to bring whatever they talked about this year. So you'll have to hire Grandma to make some, and
I'll just
Brad
bring the
will bring
brownies.
the rolls. Brad will bring the rolls,
Oh,
and
yeah.
mac and cheese. And Becky's gonna bring the Tupperware so we can all take over the leftovers home. So we got all kinds of things people will be bringing.
And I've been seeing everybody else doing these holiday books. To circle back to that, like,
Yeah.
Tim just did a little, like, his two little kids that go on, like, their mystery series,
Oh, nice.
Christmas adventure at the school. Like, stuff gets stolen, and they go on an
Okay.
adventure during, like, a Christmas raffle. Like, that's awesome. And then, you had a couple, like, very Christmas centric kids books
Yes.
coming through here too, and I'm like, I am missing the mark. I need to, like, Killer Santa. I don't know, something.
And that's a thing. Like people like that. The holiday twisting. So we were talking about theme twisting and story twisting earlier with Becky. So yeah, that would be something you can get into.
Hmm. I mean, it's always, like, fun to see stuff kind of bend, because I like that, and I also like stuff that's been considered inherently evil being charming and fun, which is probably why I liked Lucifer so much.
Yes.
Like, you get, like, the baddest of bad, but he's kind of just, well, he's kind of a dick, but he's charming and not evil. He just gets a bad rap, so the show says.
Yes.
I like stuff like that. So, I mean, anything that, maybe it's I mean, they've already gotten so much Krampus stuff. Like, I
Yeah, but
don't
I
know
think
that
you'll find something good to do.
yeah, just have to find one of those characters that's been, like, labeled as evil or bad.
I see you
So,
coming out with like a whole. I can see you doing a whole bunch of short stories regarding that.
oh yeah. Like,
That's a whole
Rudolph just
other
gets tired of
spooky tales,
everybody.
like Spooky Tales 4.
I'd have to find another name, but it'll work.
All right,
So
good.
what's funny is I've actually written most of Spooky Tales 3 before I've even published 2.
That's a way to
I
do
don't,
it.
I don't know if you saw, like, me trying to do I tried to light a fire under my fellow authors that follow my page too. Try to do, like, a short story challenge. Like, you just log on to Facebook, go into your author page, and whatever comes to your mind, write a story. Like, whatever's in your wheelhouse, whether it's dystopian, whether it's whatever Brad's books are, cult stuff. No, he doesn't even know how to label it. So when he labels it,
Yeah.
I'll label it. You could do, like, a mystery series type of thing, like Tim does. You could do, like, witch stories, like, whatever it was. So I was like, well, horror's kind of my thing. So I just kind of sat around and, like, aha, that. I'm going to write about that. And just hammered out a handful of pages about something that inspired me, like The Rain, or a store getting too many Amazon boxes.
Yes.
Um, it's just, like, little simple things that were small inspirations. I ended up, like, doing that. I was kind of hoping to, like, get some of my friends out of their little writer's funk. Maybe even write a new story in time for the new year. Who knows?
Oh
Because I
God.
did.
I know you're gonna have so much. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up for today, or I should say for us right now. And I will hop on probably in about half an hour and share some more books that I suggest that people buy beyond
Like
Harry,
what?
of course, everybody
Like
else.
what?
You want me to just do it
I'll,
now? I can do it now, but um,
yeah,
no,
I'd
no,
like to
no.
know.
I'll save it for the next video.
Well,
I
I did get. I was gonna say I did get that Science of Stephen King, because
Yeah.
I sat in on your book deal thingy a couple of weeks ago. That was I've never been encouraged to buy a book from somebody I don't know that badly.
Good.
That was,
Badly.
and I
That
thumbed
well.
through it. I thumbed through it, and it's impressive. But you're like the only store that I've ever been able to really find it at. So that's super awesome.
There you go.
Not for them, but for you, yes.
Yes.
Not for them, but I thumbed through a couple of pages. That was actually really cool. And if you're a person that has a whole lot of Stephen King, like my wife, who literally has everything with that man's name on it and his son's name, that is a fun book because it kind of goes to the next level. It's not one of his stories, but more of an exploration of the stories.
Yeah, definitely. And then of course we are really promoting right now Richard Chismar, who was on there with me. He has his book, Chasing the Boogeyman, which comes out next August. And that one we've pre-sold a ton of, but we also have Gwendy's Magic. We have Gwendy's Button Box, which he co-wrote with Stephen King, and Gwendy's Magic Feather, which they just announced they're actually writing the trilogy. The third one, so I'm very excited about that. I did not expect a third book, but a third book is coming, and it is going to be co-written by them again. The sequel was just written by Richard, but the third one will also have Stephen King's touch in it. So, yeah, you should definitely check those out as well. So we've got all these great books that we're talking about are on the website. So check out www.capricoastbooks.com. And I will talk to you. Tonight we have at 7. So like I said, I'll go live one more time with like some extra just random books that I have in stock. And then also at 7 o'clock tonight, I have 2 YA authors joining us. We have Lindsay Bandy, who wrote The Nemesis and the Swan, or Nemesis and the Swan. And then Sharon Cameron, who I don't remember the title of the book she's talking about tonight, but she's got quite a list too. So definitely check those out, and we will see you later. So have a great day. Have a great night, Harry.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks so much for all of your support all year.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll see you next time.
All right, good night. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you in about an hour. We'll come back and we'll talk about some other fun books that I have in stock that are perfect for the holidays. Have a great